Okay, today we're going to start Hayam and Beis, really in the middle of the page. Itmar. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. Because of our learning, we should have the basic English immediately. So Itmar is always introducing a statement from Amiraim, and it's also always a machlekes. So here we have regarding Yadayim Shein Mechiches. So Yadayim means that it's a handle, which means it's an intimation that doesn't spell out the full sentence, the full vow. What does he say? A real vow would say that this should be forbidden to me like a sacrifice. This item should be forbidden like a sacrifice. That would be a full vow. He doesn't say like the sacrifice. Forbidden. That's a regular yad, but here it's a yad she'ein mechiches. It doesn't even have that sentence as well. It's an ambiguous intimation. It means it may mean something else at the same time. Example. Doesn't add in the word. Let's see right now. Abaya Amar Havin Yadayim. Abaya says that even though it's ambiguous, we're on Hayam and Beis, it's still considered a yad. It's still considered the handle. That means it's an intimation for a vow. Rava Amar Yadayim. Rava says it's not. It needs to be clear what he means, even though he doesn't have to say the full statement. Amar Rava. Rava says, Rabbi Asperli, it's been clarified to me, it's been explained to me by Ravidi. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Nazir lahasal Hashem. Where did we get this? What's the source that an intimation is going to even work? It's going to work at all. So we have a pasuk. The pasuk says, lahazir. We said, we were discussing, first of all, the word order, and also it could have said yazir instead of lahazir.
Hazir is like caution.
It means to be a nazir.
Oh.
So
okay.
It's the what do we call it? The infinitive.
No, yeah.
Lahazir. To
be a nazir.
Right. It's like to vow, so to nazir. Well, makish yadis naziris lenaziris. Once we say that lahazir is teaching me the yad, the intimation, so the word before it is the nazir. So we're going to compare a nazir to the yad, and then by extension we learned yad from nazir back to Nedarim. So that's where we know yadis Nedarim. So it was all taken from naziris. Well, ma naziris ba'afla, af yadis naziris ba'afla. Just like naziris needs to be expressed clearly. Now, where do you have that naziris needs to be expressed clearly? Well, it turns out that there's a Gemara Nazir where, a Mishnah, I guess, where Reb Tarfon says that if someone sees his friend and he says, I'm going to be a Nazir if that fellow, if my friend here is a Nazir. Sees his friend probably with walking around with long hair. He says, if he's a Nazir, I'm going to be a Nazir. Well, he didn't know that he was a Nazir. He wasn't sure. That's why he took that, he made that the Tanai, the stipulation. So later on, he found out that he wasn't Nazir. But because when he said it, he didn't know 100% that that person was a Nazir. So it's not considered hafla. Hafla means to express clearly. It wasn't clear at the time when he said it that it was actually becoming a Nazir, and then it doesn't work. So since it needs to be expressed clearly by Naziris, so too, by any yad, it needs to be clear. It can't be ambiguous. Okay, that's the source. Let's say that the machlekes Abaya and Rava is actually a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanon. Now we mentioned them yesterday. We'll go over it now. The Tanan. The Gemara doesn't like when this happens because the Gemara doesn't want that an early machlekes tanoim, an argument between sages of the Mishnah, should end up also being an argument between the sages of the Gemara. Because then, why do I need the sages of the Gemara to argue about something that was argued already? If they want to tell me who each one holds like, so just say I pass like him. But to repeat the whole story as if that argument never existed, that's problematic. Well, there's another problem with saying that it's because if that's the case, then if I have determined already who the halacha is like based on the Mishnah, so then one of the sages of the Talmud is going to end up being on the wrong side of this argument because we've already determined who this is like. Well, the Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Gufei shall get. The essence of the get, what does it have to say? What is the main part of the document? It says, Harei muter l'chol adam. Behold, you are permissible to every man. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's not enough. It's not clear enough. It needs to say, B'dein dehevi lechiminai, and this, that is to you from me. Sefer Tiruchin, the document of divorce, the get beturin and the document of divorce, the gerish shavukin and the document of divorce. We didn't mention all three in when we quoted it up there. Left that one.
Here has it translated as divorce, a bill of release, and a letter of dismissal.
Oh, release and dismissal. That's good. Get beturin, the gerish shavukin. Shavukin would mean dismissal, and beturin means release.
Like the sport fishing.
What is that?
Sport fishing, where you catch and you release. You have to do that.
So, what are we seeing from Rabbi Yehuda? Well, actually, it's a little bit unclear what the emphasis here is from Rabbi Yehuda. It could be that the emphasis is that he has to say that he's using the document to divorce, and not that he's just using words. And this is just recording something. It has to say Vidain, and this is the divorce. It's another point over here, that he has to say that he's being divorced from him, that she's being divorced from him. That seems to be obvious, but he's still supposed to spell it out.
But in a divorce, it's the actual document.
It is the document.
Whereas in Nedarim,
it's just a verbal expression.
So he's describing what the document must have.
Right. What it needs to say in the document. Well, what comes out now is that according to the Rabbanan, the document only needs to say that you are now permitted to everyone. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the document needs to say that, and this document that you're getting from me is your bill of release. Okay. Abaya says that you don't need Yadayim Mechiches. So he holds like the Rabbanan that holds that the get doesn't need to say in it that this is the get that's being used and that she's being divorced from him. She says that she's now permissible. But Rabba would say like Rabbi Yehuda, where you have to spell everything out. It has to be said clearly. Can't be ambiguous. So this is problematic if Abaya holds like the Rabbanan and Rabba holds like Rabbi Yehuda. So Abaya says to you, I could go like Rabbi Yehuda as well. In other words, I know what Rabbi Yehuda says, but in my case, he could agree with me. Why? What was Abaya's case? It's a regular neder that may be ambiguous. Rabbi Yehuda would agree that that's acceptable. When does Rabbi Yehuda say that it cannot be ambiguous? That's only elagabi get to be in creases. By a divorce, he has to cut off ties with her. It has to be very, very clear that this marriage is over. Beleka, when it's not so clear, he's just saying you're now permissible, but it doesn't spell it out that this is the divorce. Aval ba'alma, but in a different case, mishametla, does he say that it has to be so clear? It doesn't have to be. It could be just even an ambiguous statement. It could also be, we could decide what that means. Rava says the opposite. Anadam refil rabbanan. I know the Rabbanan said that by a get, it's allowed to be slightly ambiguous. It could say just Hariyat Mutar Sachaladim, but by a vow, it needs to be very clear. Until now, the Rabbanan did not say that you need Yadayim Mechiches Elagabi get. It's only by the get. Only by the get do they say that it doesn't need to be Mechich, that it's allowed to be ambiguous. Why? They know the Megar says Eishes Chavere. Because we can figure out that when he's telling her that when he's giving her the get, and the get saying that she's not permissible to every man, we know that the get is from him and he's divorcing her. I mean, we can figure out he's not divorcing someone else. He's not divorcing someone else's wife. Obviously, it's his wife that he's divorcing. So it's already considered non-ambiguous. Aval ba'alma, but in a regular case, mishamatla, would he say that? Would the Rabbanan say that it's allowed to be ambiguous? It should have to be clear. That's Rava's rule. That's Rava's explanation. Okay. The Ran goes through the possibilities here of if the issue here is the minai, that it's divorcing. It seems from Rava's statement that the issue here was that he needs to say minai, that she's being divorced from him. Minai means from him, from me. And if it doesn't say minai, then maybe he's divorcing someone else's wife. Which is, how does that work? But obviously he's not divorcing someone else's wife, so that's why it's not necessary. But when we started the Gemara, we didn't understand that the issue was the minai. We thought the issue was the bedain. And this is the document of divorce, as opposed to maybe getting divorced by a statement, by saying something, and this is just the document that's recording that. Maybe he thinks that it's not the document that's the divorce. This is say bedain, and this is the divorce. So there's two parts. It's what's the emphasis here that's being drawn out. The Ran talks about that for this, even though it's ambiguous. Even though we have two possibilities here, he says one Gemara is looking at the Bedain and there's another Gemara that's looking at the Minai. Okay. Meisvei, we have a question. We're going to ask a question on Abaya. Abaya said that it's Havin Yadayim. An ambiguous statement is ambiguous neder is considered a neder. Meisvei, requires a question. Harihu alai, harize alai. Now, what he really wants to say is harize alai kikarban. This is on me like a carbon, but he doesn't finish it off. So that's a yad. It's a handle. It's an intimation. But he doesn't finish the statement. He says, this is on me, or behold on me. Behold, it is on me, or this is on me. Aser mipnei sheyad l'karban. It's forbidden because that's considered an intimation of a sacrifice. He would have said that this is like on me like a sacrifice. Time adam or alai. The reason why it's prohibited is because on me. Udaser. Avalai amar alai. But if he doesn't say on me, lie, and it's not good. He has to say the word on me. That means that an intimation that's not clear, that's ambiguous, is not considered a yad. It's not considered a handle. It's not considered intimation. If that's the case, it's a question on Abaya. Abaya said that it is.
Do they look at context when it comes to a yad term?
That's a very good question. I think what we're discussing now, we do look at context, but I think what we're discussing is really there's certain things that you need to make the statement, and if you don't say the statement, it's not. So, if there's something right in front of you and you say, we'll see soon. If someone says, sees a Nazir, he says, I want to be like him or something. That would be based on that context. I mean, you have to know that the person's there, but that wouldn't be considered that he's accepting that he's a nazir.
Do you have to do anything with if it's possible, like the possibilities are others?
Yeah. We're going to see that also. What did we have before? Before we said that Mudrani Himach maybe doesn't mean that he's not going to eat from the other person. Maybe means he's not going to be in his he's not going to talk to him, or he's going to stay away from him, won't do business, or because it has other meanings. So then we say that it's nothing. But yeah, there was a discussion that we didn't go through yesterday, that if something is ambiguous, do we just take it that it means the lower, the most lenient thing, because we just say it's not mechiach, or do we say that once it's ambiguous, it's nothing? I think the Ran says that because it's ambiguous, it's nothing.
You said it could be more or less.
Right. Indeed, Mamanus it would be because the Yesh B'chlal Messiah Mana. So if it's a question if he owes 200 or 100, we'll say, well, both agree that it's 100.
Ambiguity is resolved.
But if it's not clear, if he meant to say that I'm not going to be in the person's 4 Amos, or if he said I'm not going to eat from his food, so then according to the way the Ran learns, it's going to be nothing. Okay. Okay. Amalach Abaya says would say to you, in others, we just had a question on him because it seemed that without the word alai on me, alai means on me, without that word, we would say that this is not a good vow. And Abaya holds that it should be a good vow. So it's a question on Abaya. Why is it a question? Because we're quoting a brisa that's stronger than Abaya's statement, right? A brisa is a Tanaic source. So Amalach Abaya would explain to you that time Adamar alai, the reason why he says alai huda said only then if he says alai on me, that's when it's going to be prohibited. Avalamar harehu v'layamar alai, but if he just says it is, behold it is, and he doesn't say on me, why is that not going to be enough? Because harehu the hefker, harehu the tzedakah kamer could mean something else. So it's not even a yad at all. We don't even know what he's referring to. It may not even be a vow that's making something prohibited. It could mean something totally different. Yeah, so what's going to happen here is we play with this. A yad means that he didn't say the full statement. Yadayim shein mechichas means that it's not clear what it means. And if Abaya holds Yadayim shein mechichas is good enough, we're going to have, if we have a proof that it's not good enough, Abaya is just going to say, well, that's not a yad at all. That's so ambiguous that it's not even any.
So in a way, the yad could go either way. It could either
Be enough.
be enough or not, depending on who it is who's
Right.
Interpreting that yad.
Right. They say the father tells the kid, so enough is enough. He says, but that wasn't enough. Okay. Ella Ema. A second, I skipped something. We could have thought that Hareo de Hefker, Hareo de Tzedakah kamer. Maybe it means that it is ownerless, it is tzedakah. And he never meant to say that it is considered like a sacrifice. We don't know anything there. But one second. He said that it's a yad for a carbon. Now for a carbon, if he says harehu, that's enough. He doesn't have to say harehu alai. If he says it is, that could, and he points to something that could be a carbon, then that would be a carbon. And now here he's not actually making a carbon. Here he's pointing at a loaf of bread. He's saying it is on me like the carbon. But we're saying that since by a sacrifice this would be enough, so then this should be enough for the nether as well. And for the sacrifice it is enough. Well, Le'ema rather say, it's different. If he says that this is on me, so then it means only on me. But if he doesn't say avalama harehu, but if he says it is, then shneim asurim, then him and his friend become prohibited. Well, from this object comes for him and his friend. The dilma harehu hektish kamer. Maybe he meant that it is not a vow, but it's consecrated. Then no one can have benefits from it. So that's why you had to say harehu alai. That alai makes it into the vow. Harehu would just make it consecrated. And then it would be prohibited for not just him, but for everyone. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. Harezu chatas harezu asham. This sacrifice here, this animal here is a sin offering. This animal here is a guilt offering. I guess the one detail that you need to know here is that you can't pledge a sin offering. You can't donate a sin offering or a guilt offering. You can only give a sin offering for a sin that was committed. So when a person says, this is a chatas, maybe it's just making a pledge that doesn't have to do with his sin. So even though we know that he happens to have that sin that would require this, and we know that he has that guilt, that it would require the guilt offering. So, but nevertheless, because maybe it's a donation. Harezu chatasi harezu ashami. This is my sin offering. This is my guilt offering. Then we know that it's for his sin. If he was actually committed a sin, then that's good.
Over your head, he said, "This is mine."
Yeah. Yeah, but over there we have to be careful not to make it a sacrifice. Else we'll have trouble. You won't be allowed to eat it. Yeah.
You could always swap it for a better carbon.
No, actually, you can't swap. Tamura. Yeah.
Also, always good.
Yeah, they both become sacrifices. Wait, what we possibly learned was that if it was never considered a sacrifice because it had a blemish, before it was consecrated, then it could be exchanged. But if it didn't have a blemish and it was consecrated, and then it gets a blemish later, well, once it gets a blemish, then it's Sulayam, that's different. But if it doesn't have a blemish and you try to switch it for a better one, that has the rule of Tamura, and they both become consecrated. Yeah, it's a prohibition, and they both become. Yeah, you're not allowed to switch that. So here, what are we seeing? That he says Harezu chatas. It's an intimation that he means that it's his chatas for him, and nevertheless, it's not good. Tifta da Abaya. It's a question on Abaya. Abaya says that Yadayim mechiches is havi Yadayim she'ena mechiches is havi Yadayim. Even if it's not 100% clear, it's still good enough. And according to this price, it's not good enough. Amalach Abaya. So Abaya will say to you, Hamani Rabbi Yehuda. Abaya can get out of this by saying there's a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. So you quoted to me a brisa. So what? That's not a question on me. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda held by the get that you have to spell it out, that this document that you're receiving from me is the bill of divorce. So this price also goes with Rabbi Yehuda. The problem is, Rabbi Yehuda Amar, Anadam Rafilu Rabbi Yehuda. What are you talking that Abaye would say that's Rabbi Yehuda? He said a minute ago that Rabbi Yehuda would agree with him, and Rabbi Yehuda only said that by a get. Because the get has to be, he's being severed from her entirely. She's being severed from him entirely. But over here, which is not a get, it's just dedicating a sacrifice. And Rabbi Yehuda would say that, like Abaya, that Yadayim Shein Mechichas Havi Yadayim, that it is considered consecrated, even though it's ambiguous. So what are you telling me that this opinion follows Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda would agree with Abaya. So Amalach, the Gemara answers Hadabe. Abaya retracted from that. He has to have that Rabbi Yehuda holds that Yadayim Shem Mechiches is Lehavi Yadayim, and Abaya follows the Rabbanan. Gemara asks if that's the case that Rabbi Yehuda retracted, that Abaya retracted from following Rabbi Yehuda as well, and Abaye will just follow the Rabbanan. Remember what the Rabbanan said? Hariyat mutar chaladim is the get. You don't have to spell it out. It just says you're permissible to every man. That's the whole get. And Abaye says that Yadayim Shein Mechiches, ambiguous statements, are also considered a statement. It is. So that fits perfectly with the Rabbanan. But what did we say before that? Rava that says that Yadayim Shein Mechiches, if it's ambiguous, it's not good. And he'll follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that says the get needs to say in it that this is the document that you're receiving from me, to spell it out 100%. So Elalema Rava Damak Rabbi Yehuda. Rava that said like Rabbi Yehuda, but before Rava also said like the Rabbanan. He said, why do I say, how can I go like the Rabbanan as well? Because the Rabbanan by the get said that it was fine to say Hariyat Mutas Chaladim because no one's divorcing someone else's wife. So over there, it's not considered really ambiguous. But in a regular statement that is ambiguous, it's not good. The Rabbanan would agree with me. So maybe now, if Abaye is dropping Rabbi Yehuda from supporting him, so maybe the Rav is also dropping the Rabbanan from supporting him. Amalach Rava will say to you, Rabbanan. It's not true. I know Abaye just dropped Rabbi Yehuda, and Abaye is only following the Rabbanan. But Rava says, I go like the Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda. That Ad can like Rabbanan leibin yadayim mechichas elagabe getin and megar says chavera b'alma bin yadayim mechichas. Like you said before, that I don't have to change that. When did the Rabbanan not require that it's spelled out, that he spells it out exactly what he's saying? That's only by the get because he's not divorcing someone else's wife. But by a regular case, it would need to be Yadayim Mechichas. Okay. Boy Rav Papa. Rav Papa has a question. Yesh Yad L'Kedushin Elai. Is there an intimation that can you use a handle or intimation by Kedushin? Because we have it for Nedarim, that it does work. Does it work for Kedushin? Echidami. Right. What's the case? Ilema. If we say Damala Isha, that he says to a woman, Hariyat Mekadeshesli, behold, you are betrothed to me. And he tells to the girl that's next to her, Va'atnami, and you too.
Wait, who says you two?
The man tells to this woman, behold, you are betrothed to me. And he looks at the girl next to her and says, and you too. So the question is, where's the exchange of money? We need money. She doesn't need to say anything. Doesn't need to say.
But didn't we learn that it has to be?
He has to give her something. That's the problem. What did he give?
There's 2 rings.
There has to be some consent, just like.
Well, she needs to be aware, and she can't protest, and she has to have das to know what's going on. I mean, he has to say, which he made the statement, which is very clear. You're betrothed to me, at least to the first one. And but where did he give the money? Where's the money? So the Ran says that he gave 2 coins to the first woman. Yeah. Second.
Turn off that.
So,
Okay. Do this. Okay. He gave 2 coins to the first woman, and then what he's expecting is that the first woman is now going to be a shliach to receive it on behalf of the other woman.
Not proposing
without
to
telling
two
her.
women.
He is
Oh, he is.
proposing to 2 women
Without telling her.
at the beginning. He answered the 2 coins. Hariyat Mekudeshesli. Well, I guess if he does it the Chabad way, where you say it while you're putting the ring on, right?
2 rings.
So he's giving her the 2 rings as he's saying Hariyat Mekudeshesli Va'atnami, and he points to the other. I guess with his other hand, he points to the other one. So you too. So Gemara says, Pshita, Haina Kedushin Atzman. This is a good Kedushin. I saw that the there's another pshat. The other pshat is that he tells the woman, approaches the man and says, I'm a messenger. Rachel approaches, well, let's say it's Leah. Leah approaches Yaakov and says, I'm a messenger from Rachel to receive her kedushin. I heard you wanted to marry Rachel. So here I am. I'll take the ring for her. A shliach from Rachel. So he gives her the ring on behalf of Rachel. And then he gives her the second ring, Vatnami. Or maybe he gives her both rings. So now I don't have a question of, but he didn't give her the ring because she's a shliach. The first one was anyways for her. Yeah, that would be a more simple case for how this would work. Huh? Okay. The Gemara says, "Pshita kedushin." That's a regular kedushin atzman. Elke going to amala leisha. Rather, what happened was he told the woman, "Horiat mekudeshesli. Behold, you are betrothed to me." Amala lechaverta va'at. He tells her friend, "And you." Doesn't say "and you also." Doesn't say "you too." He says "and you." This is a yadayim. This is not just the yadayim shein mechichas. This is we're looking for a yad. You.
Say yes or
Yeah,
no.
she doesn't have to say. She's always quiet at the wedding. She saves it for later. So mi amrina and va'at nami amala lechaverta. Do we say that what he meant to say was you two? B'tafsi b'kedushin lechaverta. Idilma va'at chazoi. Va'at chazoi amala lechaverta. V'lei tafsi b'kedushin lechaverta. Does he mean to say? See, what's confusing me over here is that I thought the Gemara's question was, is there a yad at all? But now the Gemara is shifting it to, is there a yad yadayim shein mechiches? There's two steps to a yad, the intimation. One is where he doesn't finish off the statement. The other one where it may mean something else also. Does it nevertheless work? But our question, Rav Papa's question was not, it may mean something else also, does it work? Rav Papa's question was, does a yad work at all? Does he have to spell it out? Harei at mikudeshes. Does he have to say li? Or something? Or is that really understood? Which that would seem to be understood, right? But over here, it's making it that the question is, if it's yadayim mechiches, because he's saying ba'at. Ba'at could mean, and you watch. Doesn't mean that you should also be married to me, or doesn't mean that then you observe. Oh, okay. They quote over here a Rashba that says that if I hold that yadayim doesn't work, that intimation doesn't work by kedushin, then automatically that would tell me how to interpret this. Because the intimation doesn't work, you can't just say va'at. So then for kedushin, then va'at would now mean va'at chazoi, and you look. That would tell me what it means if I hold that there's no yadayim. That's what it is. Yeah. Observe. Yeah. You watch what's going on. Okay. The Gemara now says, does Rav Papa really have a question about a yad for kedushin? But Rav Papa told to Abaya in another Gemara, Abaya is Rav Papa's teacher. He asked this question: does Shmuel hold Yadayim Shein Mechichas is considered a yad? That was his question. Michlal, but that from the question it implies Sfir Leila Rav Papa, the Yad LeKedushin. He was even asking a step further. Does Shmuel hold Yadayim Shein Mechichas? How did we get into this about the yad? Because we were discussing a statement from Shmuel that he has to say in our Mishnah. He says, I am distanced from you, that I eat from you. And we were learning that Shmuel was talking about Yadayim Shein Mechichas. If he only says one of them, is that going to be that's going to be considered Yadayim Shein Mechichas? So we ended up saying that Shmuel holds Yadayim Shein Mechichas Lo Havi Yadayim. It's not considered a yad.
Yeah.
Now we asked, Rav Papa asks Abaya, does Shmuel hold Yadayim Shein Mechichas is Yadayim? And he said this about Kedushin. But that would obviously mean that there is a yad. The question was about Yadayim Shein Mechichas. There is an intimation. The question is the ambiguous intimation. The Gemara says,
excuse me, all that he left out was leave. Is that
I
the
think
case?
so. Yeah.
Because you can't consecrate something that doesn't belong to you.
Right.
So it couldn't be anything but marriage, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe he says that I guess it could mean that he's a shliach for someone else. Yeah. That case in Kedushin was where Hariyat Mekudeshes, and he doesn't say li. So Shmuel says Mekudeshes. Shmuel says that it's good. So we're thinking that Rav Papa obviously understood that there is a yad because he was asking a step further. Gemara says, "Chada migai my desfir leila Shmuel amalela Abaya." This doesn't tell me what Rav Papa holds. This is just a point that Rav Papa is asking Abaya from what Shmuel holds. He's just asking in Shmuel's opinion. It doesn't tell me anything about what Rav Papa's opinion is. We have another question. Boy Rav Papa, yesh yad lepeya, yein yad lepeya. Is there an intimation by peya or not? Echidami, what's the case? Ilay medamar hadei nogi lehapi peya vadei nami. He goes into the field and he points to a row of the field. He says, this row should be peya. Then he points to another one and he says, this one also. He peya malaisis, and that's obviously peya. You know, peya is what's left for the corner of the field that's left for the poor. So how does it become peya? You have to designate it, verbally designate. So kikami baile. So what's the question? Going to amar v'hadein, and he says in this, v'lo yamar nami, but it doesn't say this also, this too. So what is the halacha? Michlal, whatever the case is, the Gemara jumps to a conclusion here that how much peya was he supposed to give? The first row. And now he points to another row and he says, in this too. Or now, right now he's saying, in this, and he doesn't say two. But that row that he's pointing to is extra. So apparently you're allowed to give more peya than what's required. So the Gemara jumps to the conclusion, obviously this must mean that you can make more than what you require to be paid. You can give more peya than what's required. And you can actually give the whole field. Is that true? Gemara says, yes, that is true. But Tanya, we even have a brayso that supports that. The corner of your field says your field tells me that you can also make the whole field peya. You can give the whole field to the poor. It's considered peya. So the Gemara asks, or Rav Papa is asking, Mi Amrina, do we say kiven diskash lekarbanas because we compare peya to sacrifices? Makabanas yesh lam yad, af peya yesh yad. Just like a korban has a yad, so too peya has a yad, and you can just say and this. You don't have to say this too. Dilmar maybe kiyaskash lebaltachu diskash. maybe it is compared to pay is compared to sacrifices, but where is it compared to sacrifice regarding Bal Ta'acha, that a person can't delay giving his payah? So it's only compared to sacrifice regarding Bal Ta'acha. Where is it compared? The Tanya, we have a brisa. It says me'imach. It says from you. That's the pasuk, the end of the pasuk of Bal Ta'acher. It says, do not delay. Ki darish yidrushenu Hashem lekech me'imach. Ki darish yidrushenu Hashem lekech me'imach. Because Hashem will demand of it from you. So we'll seek it from you. When it says me'imach from you, zel leket shikha pei, this is referring to the gifts to the poor, which is the leket, which is the stalks of wheat that fall during the harvest. If it's 1 or 2, he's supposed to leave it, and if it's 3, then he can pick it up. And the shikha is the bundles that are left in the field. He's not supposed to go back and get it. If it's forgotten in the field, he's supposed to leave it for the poor. And then the payah. So we do have a comparison to karbanas, that just like by karbanas there's Bal Ta'acher, so to by payah there's Bal Ta'acher. So the Gemara has a question here. Do we say that there's a yad also, just like there is by karbanas, because it's juxtaposed? It's not juxtaposed. It's compared to karbanas. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Great.
They're all cut up.
Rabbi Duran said,
Tell me.
I didn't hear he said that when the first statement of